have a public meeting just to let everybody know what our plans were as far as looking into consolidating both Winthrop and Monmouth police agencies into one agency. The reason why we started this about, I'm gonna say probably 18 months ago. About 18 months ago, the towns got together and wanted to explore this possibility in an effort to improve services to the community, as well as providing more opportunities for the officers involved to have more needed time off, more training, and to assist each other in investigations and crimes. And we do that pretty much now. Monmouth will respond over to Winthrop, back them up on complaints. Winthrop comes over to Monmouth and backs us up on complaints. And it's pretty much on a daily basis. This happens. In our recent contract negotiations for the town of Monmouth, we started working the contract so that it would better align with the Winthrop contract as far as pay scale. So if we did ever consolidate that, it would be a much easier buy-in from both agencies, because everybody will be on the same pay level. There are issues that need to be worked out between the towns and the unions as far as other processes in the system. This is a fairly new concept statewide. I think there are only three other towns in the state of Maine that have consolidated their PDs, and so there's no books on how to do this. So it's kind of a learning process as we go. And I mean, right from the council and select board all the way down to the officers that work the road, it's all new. And we're all thinking outside the box to make sure that everything is covered as best as we can. Again, our preliminary idea was to combine the agencies and provide a better utilize the resources we have available to us. For one example, we'd have a lieutenant in Monmouth, as Lieutenant Dana Westling here, and a lieutenant in Winthrop, Josh Hammond, right here. Both working days. To me, that didn't make sense because we need supervision on night. So if we combine, we could better handle those shortcomings and have a lieutenant on nights and a lieutenant on days, have a little more supervision out there for the men and women on the road. We also have the ability to have our CID and Winthrop assist our control units in investigations long-term.
Listen, I'm not familiar with police terms, so CID is?
Criminal Investigations Division.
Thank you.
Our detectives.
Appreciate it.
That our detectives could assist both agencies a little bit better in handling major crime, because we all know that just because there's a border between us doesn't stop the crime from coming to Monmouth, or Monmouth's crime going over to Winthrop. We've worked in concert with each other on drug houses in both communities, because we all have the same information. We all share that information. So it just makes sense to be a little more active and proactive along the line. moving forward because we provide a much better service to the community and alleviating some of these issues that we deal with out there. One of the other concerns that we look at from the management perspective is there are no guarantees for law enforcement services within our communities. We've seen multiple police departments close down in the past few years because of shortage of staff, pay issues, town not supporting the police departments. And by bringing the two together, I think that consolidation helps direct the future resiliency of both agencies. It also provides the ability for to attract better trained employees coming to a little bit bigger agency. Gives them more resources, more reasons to come, incentivizes them to come, and we hold on to them the employees longer because there's more potential within the walls of that agency. Dana, anything you want to go further on?
No, pretty much it. And that's the biggest thing is that I'm looking at as a supervisor of Monmouth is right now we're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have 4 officers, including myself. We work 12-hour shifts. Getting time off, and an officer goes on vacation, it's very difficult to fill. Usually that's me trying to fill, shifts, and it's combining the two departments allows me to have a bigger pool of officers, but that allows me to send them to training too. So now you have a better trained officer and you have a better rested officer because they go to vacations, they take their times off that they deserve, and they do. So that's one of the biggest benefits of doing this. And I know that there's been, a little bit of talk about people worried about losing services here in Monmouth, and that was complete opposite. You'd actually gain quite a few services by us doing it.
Can I ask a question? Or do you want to do that again?
I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question? Or can I-
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the concerns I have, so we lived in Winthrop for many years. And we bought Monmouth 2.5 years ago or so. Part of what made us go with Monmouth and the higher tax rate in Monmouth was because of the police department. I know that Monmouth is relieved the police department once before. I don't want to see that happen. So my concern is Monmouth's taxes go up every year pretty aggressively. And what about the budget in town as far as you heard it Winthrop's a larger town. And from my experience living in Winthrop for many years, I think it's got more crime rate. You guys know better than I do. But living there, I feel like it does. I could be completely wrong. But I'm worried about what's going to happen if you guys do this, and then all of a sudden, town of Monmouth can't afford it anymore. And so I just don't know how you guys still plan on being able to stay in the budget. Is it on it currently?
That's the plan. Yes.
Okay.
It's like my position with the towns of Winthrop and Monmouth. There's I don't know what the official title of it is, but there's a buyout.
Sure.
So if any community no longer wants to share they have, I believe in the contract, it's 90 days notice to terminate that, then everything goes back to the way it was.
Yeah.
And I don't see that it would be any different with this sort of endeavor, that there would be a exclusion or a buyout. I don't know what the exact right terminology is for that.
I'm assuming that once you merge, you're going to be working on one budget. So not
The way it,
separate.
do you want to explain the budget?
Sure, I can try to do that.
So the plan from I'm Justin Porter, I'm the town manager.
Yeah, I'll talk to you over there.
Oh, okay. Nice to see you in person.
The plan from the consolidation committee right now is to create a limited police commission. So sometimes you hear about those in large cities, and they kind of govern the activities of the police functions. It's not really the idea here. The idea here, the police commission would have two main functions. One would be to hire a chief when a vacancy occurs, so they would be part of that process. The managers would ultimately pick with their governing boards, just like they do now, but the commission would be part of that hiring process. They'd have input on the interviews, things like that. The second major power of the commission would be to recommend a consolidated budget to each town. So the elected bodies wouldn't necessarily be deciding how many widgets the police department would have, but the police commission would recommend a number for that consolidated department that then would be divvied out according to a funding formula, which the commission would also be charged with setting up over the interim year. So in the year we're going into, if the consolidation were to happen, because Monmouth doesn't have a council and it can't adjust its budget simply like Winthrop can, because they have a council, we need the town meeting to approve budget here. We had to budget this year's budget as though the consolidation wouldn't happen. In the event it fails, they still need enough money in order to operate.
Sure.
So the police commission in the next year would be charged with figuring out what that budget should look like with the consolidated services. So obviously, we currently duplicate some things, physical space, certain computers. Chief might be able to explain what the duplication is even better than me, but there's some personnel costs that are kind of duplicated, not necessarily officers, but civilian employees. So that stuff would all be looked at. And the police commission would recommend a consolidated budget to each side for their approval or deny them. Does that answer does that answer sort of how that budget process would work?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like I said, me, I want to see the police department continue here, but I also know that, as we talked the other day, every department in this town is over budget almost every year. And eventually, it's gotta stop somewhere. So I'm worried. I'm just worried that we're gonna lose the police department. I don't want to lose the police department. And I don't also wanna see, I am my own business. I can work as much as I want. I don't wanna see other people get taxed out of their houses either. So, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that you hear people talk in town, they feel that way, but nobody wants to show up and say that. But I don't wanna lose the police department. I had one of your officers just 2 weeks ago said my son's snowmobile broke down the side of the road. She waited there for me to come all the way back from Augusta to make sure he didn't get hit. And she said, I really appreciated her doing that. And I was very thankful she could do that. Because Main Street, and I see all your officers sitting there, they don't slow down all the time. So even little things like that are important. And I definitely want your officers to be safe. I want them to have what they need to be safe. And just don't want to see people get taxed out of their home, and I don't want to lose the police department. And that's my opinion.
And no one wants to see that either. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're going down this road, is so we can hopefully prevent something like that from happening in the future. Yes, sir.
Could you give a little background as to how many offices there are in Monmouth and how many offices there are in Winthrop?
Monmouth, we have 4.5, and Winthrop, we got 9.5. I'm the half on both sides of the house.
And so consolidation, is there any vision that would be changing? Because what I heard initially was that you could utilize, now you have what, 14 staff when they're both consolidated. So I know that all 14 are not going to be moving to Winthrop, or all 14 are going to be moving to Monmouth. But do you envision that things changing within that so that you can meet some of the requirements that you're having a hard time struggling? For example, vacations, sickness, those types of things. So how do you see that working, and how is that going to impact upon Monmouth? I'm sure the Winthrop's just as concerned about those same kinds of things, but I'm looking at it from a Monmouth perspective. And like the gentleman in back, we've had over the last year a number of police officers from Monmouth at our particular house because of instances that happened at our house. And I appreciate them being there as promptly and as professional as they were every time they were there. So, I mean, there's a benefit associated with that, but I can certainly understand consolidation seems to make sense. But back to how can we be assured that those kind of personal kinds of things aren't going to be going away?
And when you talk about the personal type of thing, you're talking about what the officers did to help his child.
Yeah,
There will be, I can guarantee you that as far as I'm concerned, that the services that we provide now are not gonna change. We're still gonna provide that same level of service that we're doing now.
so from your perspective, what's the major reason to do this? Is it cost, or is it better utilization of staff?
Better utilization of staff to provide a better service to our communities.
So some of that will also include then maybe changing the rate of pay for some of these.
No, because we've already addressed that in the last, for Monmouth, to bring Monmouth up to the same pay level as the Winthrop officers.
Okay, because when you were talking before, I didn't get that impression. There were different levels. So both all the staff, if you're a sergeant or maybe you're a sergeant, a detective or whatever, or driving, I don't know the job descriptions, but
Sure.
if it's similar job description, Winthrop or Monmouth, they're at the same pay based upon the years of experience.
Correct.
Okay. So what's the downside of not doing this?
The downside of not doing this,
Yeah,
I mean, things would still run the same as they always do. Again, we're looking at improving the level of service that we're providing our communities by adjusting personnel. Like I said, a shift supervisor on nights and a shift supervisor on days, so we have that oversight ability. Being able to, detectives to assist the patrolmen on lengthy or very in-depth investigations, and I'll just throw one out there. Sex abuse investigations is a very specialized investigation that not everybody can handle, nor should they. This is one of those endeavors that would assist our officers in making sure that the investigations were done properly and correctly.
Could you just touch on sort of coverage areas that there'd still be somebody in, if everybody's working that day, we would still assume there's somebody covering each jurisdiction sort of in the same, it may look a little different, but could you just touch?
Yeah. Again, Monmouth has one person on 24/7. Winthrop has most times two people on, except for I think Monday nights, Sunday nights and Monday nights, and maybe in the wee hours of some mornings, there's only one officer on. That is not going to change. The coverage is going to be the same moving forward. It's just going to provide us with, like I said, with another supervisor on in the evening hours for oversight purposes and to back the officers up. So you'd actually have an officer in each community plus a supervisor on duty. Yes, Joe.
If I may. So we're looking at proposed schedules, which is kind of what you're asking about, sir. The idea would be by having more supervisory coverage. So like right now, if there's only one officer for the moment working and they need assistance, they're calling officers on their day off to come in and assist. Winthrop will come over, but getting other Monmouth officers here takes time. The idea would be having, again, essentially 3 officers working, still one Winthrop, one Monmouth, and then a supervisor. You have immediate supervisory coverage to help. You have additional manpower to call in that may be needed and not waiting for that help.
If that makes sense.
Well, from my perspective, again, my experience with the police officers is on a personal note, with my granddaughter, but from a logical perspective, it makes sense with regards to what you're proposing. I also understand, the gentleman back here that lived in both places and he prefers Monmouth police protection. I can't talk to one Winthrop, but very happy with what I've received here. So I'm assuming as long as I continue to receive the same type of services that I'm receiving now in the future, then I'm not sure where I'm seeing there's a disadvantage to this. So that's what I'd be interested in.
Olivia, this is Olivia Moore. Anybody who doesn't know, she's an officer from Monmouth.
I work nights, and I will say, so what they're trying to explain is I don't have a supervisor working nights. Winthrop right now does. So for me, I can't count the number of times that I have called Lieutenant Westland and woke him up at 2 a.m. because I have a supervisory question. So this would allow, instead of me waking up my lieutenant at 2 a.m., he's already available and I can just have him directly there. So it's opening up for me to have easier access to a supervisor instead of waking him up 2 to 3 times a night because I have a question about something. Winthrop currently has that. Monmouth does not.
Why can't you just call the Winthrop supervisor? If it's a question for what you're doing, it's gonna be the same whether it's in Monmouth or in Winthrop, correct?
Good.
You know what I'm saying?
Simply because, from my perspective, if I'm being paid by Winthrop, not by Monmouth. Why?
Why wouldn't we pay a fee to use you after the supervisor's gone home, say from 6 at night till 6 in the
So
morning?
the other thing is we have different policies and procedures. Most of them are pretty well aligned, but there are some differences. So if I give a Monmouth officer advice based on my policy, but it differs, and they could potentially get in trouble for violating their own policy that I don't know. So I don't want to give bad advice either. So with this consolidating, obviously you want policy to follow for both towns.
Paul, can I speak briefly? I gotta go to a check. I'm Aaron White. I'm one of the counselors over at Winthrop. And just wanted to say that I'm fully supportive of this effort between the manager and Paul and our town manager moving forward. And to your point, we don't want to see any change in coverage. The idea behind this would be to kind of advance Monmouth's ability to have some resilience in their department. If we go back, obviously, I'm familiar with Monmouth Rescue because I've worked there for many years, and we tried everything under the sun when these kind of things started to happen, and we waited too long to have a discussion. So, I see this. I know Dana's a rarity that he's been with Monmouth as long as he's been, but other officers have come and gone, right? So I look at this as something that we both as communities could benefit from. And like I said, as far as my perspective in the council, we would want to make sure that it's as much of a benefit for the town of Monmouth as it is for the town of Winthrop. In the accountability.
I guess to me, the only thing I have, but the budget.
Yeah, of course.
Because Monmouth's gonna split the bill.
I mean, we've talked
That's not.
the preliminary, we would look like, it would look kind of like maybe what we do for the ambulance service right now, right? Which is utilization. So we know if the town of Monmouth doesn't utilize the department, we'll probably talk about something like 40-60, like how we do with Paul right now. But we certainly wouldn't want to pass a burden or make it more of a burden on the town.
I have zero issues with increasing the police force and making it safer for the officers. I just have an issue with the budget and Monmouth has gone up the last few years, like the taxes keep going up and up and up. And I know that the police department's been deleted before. I didn't live in Monmouth at the time, but I do know about it. And I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah.
But on the same note, is you can only increase your taxes so far if they can't pay them.
I have to go, but I just wanted to make sure that that we're very supportive of Paul.
As I said earlier, one of the big issues is that this is not done a lot. So we're learning as we go. And exactly how we're gonna end up, what the funding model is going to look like. We don't know 100% what it's gonna look like, how we're gonna do it. That's gonna, something we're gonna have to work out, as we move along. Obviously, our goal, my goal is not to, increase the taxes, increase the budget to the point where we see ourselves out of a service here in town. That's not the goal. That's not what we want. That's,
Yeah, it's not what I want either.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you guys are gonna consolidate the police departments. I would assume, right, like the stations, like you run this one, you run just way out of Winthrop, I assume?
yeah, and like I said, that
Yeah.
there are things
I know you got
that
things
we
to work
haven't
out.
worked out yet. Don't know, that's a decision that's above my pay grade, above my head.
Are we gonna save anything as far as like consolidating police cruisers or any of that? Is there any savings there at all?
No,
No.
in the, realistically,
Really,
the,
it's just tough. That's-
realistically, the primary goal was not to save money. The primary goal was to provide a better service and provide better coverage for our communities.
I don't even care about saving money. I just don't wanna see we're out of control when we do this. Cause like I said,
Nor do I. I live in Monmouth too. And I
Winthrop's bigger than we are, you know what I mean? So, and, you know, I live in Winthrop, the police department was great. You know, we had somebody try to break in our house one day, one night, and we just got to come, I couldn't defend myself. That didn't work out well. But she found out otherwise, but, yeah, they were great when we were there too. I have no issues with Winthrop and Monmouth or any of the above. I'm actually, I support, I want to keep the police department. So it's not, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm just worried that we don't. Budgeting.
And again, that's, it still falls down to, the town in a vote. I mean, the commission, the way I understand it, is gonna put a budget together. They're gonna go forward to the individual communities with that budget. And if the select board says that isn't gonna cut it, go back and fine tune it, then it'll come back to us to fine tune. I mean, so you still have that ultimate control over the budget.
Okay. So other question, so if we do this, so you're in charge of both departments now anyway. But once they all become Winthrop or however you guys do that, I'm assuming, our town manager still has some input in this department, I would assume? Not just Winthrop or, you know?
Correct.
So the idea is that the commission would be made. So both town managers would be ex officio, so would be on there, and so would the chief. The chief would be a member of that commission, and then there'd be representatives from each community,
Right.
whether they're counselors or select board members or members of the public. Well, are for the municipal officers to decide how they want to divvy that up, but there'll be representatives from each community. Both managers will serve, and the way the consolidation works is it puts the chief as a direct report to both town managers. So just like we do now, like he reports to me and he also reports to Anthony over in Winthrop.
Yep.
Haven't we tried this before? Like, this is the second or third time we've tried to consolidate.
For the police department, I'm not aware of them.
Back when I worked in Winthrop, they were trying to consolidate. That was 2 years ago.
I know Donna would know better. She's been around longer.
Well, they've been talking about it for a long time.
They talked about consolidation. They've talked about doing away with it. They've talked about hiring the sheriff's department. I mean, we've been all over.
Well, last I heard, the town council in Winthrop didn't want
Didn't want what?
this to consolidate.
Well, you just heard from,
I heard from him.
And
I'm just
that's-
saying,
and that's the viewpoint of all of them over this.
I know we're talking about the police department. We've also heard rumors with regards to other aspects that are town operated, for example, the recovery and the dump, that may be consolidation of those with Winthrop. So,
The only other active consolidation right now is Monmouth is working with Winthrop and Manchester to share an animal control officer. But that's the only other one that's gone anywhere. Anything else is just
Speculation.
There are always conversations. Anthony and I have a good relationship. We work with Paul, so we meet fairly regularly. We try to figure out what we can do together to try to help both our communities, but there's no other formal process that's set up right now to consolidate any other services. We have talked in the past about whether it made any sense for a Monmouth to bring certain debris to Winthrop because they have a more sophisticated transfer station. They have a scale and all that, so they can weigh things. We've talked about that, but none of that's panned out. So,
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So it is what it is.
it is what it is right now. Yeah, there's nothing else really on the table besides this and the
The,
animal control person.
I've gotta tell you that the men and women we have working for the town of Monmouth and the town of Windsor are to be commended. When Dana was out with his accident for 10, 11 months, these men and women stepped up to the table working countless hours to make sure that services were provided to the communities. Excuse me. And they're to be commended for that. The hours that they work during that event were unprecedented. And you have someone working 60 hours of overtime in a 80-hour pay period. God bless them for doing it, but it's also very dangerous for them to do that. And I don't want to put anybody in that position going forward if something like this were to happen again, because it's dangerous to have.
There's gonna be no loaf.
I'm wondering where that was coming from. I thought the little one in the back of the room was talking. And it's dangerous for them to be out on the road, whether, overtired and falling asleep, not the sharpest when they're going on into a high intensity case, situation. And I don't ever want to put anybody in that position. And this is one way to avoid that going forward. I want to make sure that the men and women who work for us are safe, that they're taken care of, that if this consolidation happens, that there are no issues between the unions. We're fortunate that we have one union and one union rep that deals with both sides of the house, which simplifies it because he knows both contracts, and we need to work closely with him and the union body in order to make sure that no one that we don't short sight anything. Like I said, this is new to everybody, so there's no written books on how to do this. We're just fumbling through it as we go, and we want to make sure that we don't alienate union members, because they're the ones that are out there doing the job, and they deserve to get what they get, because they're the ones putting their life on the line every single day. And if you don't think we do, we deal with a lot of bad stuff that people have no knowledge about. I know, I think, was your father in law enforcement?
He was, yeah, I knew that.
I'm a police chief, I know what's
I have a brother that's Texas State Trooper too, so.
Yeah, so they leave, they put the uniform on, they don't know what they're coming back to, or what they're dealing with on a daily basis. And we would do anything to keep our family safe, or these guys, these men and women in my family. I want to do everything right by them to make sure that no one is shortchanged for anything. Yes, ma'am.
I can back you up on that. I actually work at the county jail.
Oh, thank you.
I'm in the medical side though, but I get to see all the good stuff. And I do have to commend both Monmouth and Winthrop. Y'all English teachers would give you gold stars. You guys have the best reports. They are the cleanest. They are the most accurate. Like, I read them and I'm like, nothing's left out. I see other towns in our county and it's horrible. And I see what they bring in, good ones sometimes. But I do want to commend them on what they do, and I've seen what they bring in, and they do a lot for our towns in the crossover. I've seen you back up with your reports with Winthrop coming over. And it's great. There is such a good collaboration already happening, and it can only be positive, I think.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for what you do, because I worked for the sheriff's department for 17 years, and I always said, I don't know how you guys work in those four walls, because there's no way I could have done it without going stir crazy.
I have my own cell, technically. I have no window. I have the badge out to get out. It's great.
I have some more there. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, Chief, so I'll repeat it if I can. The person on Zoom, if you'd like to make your statement, I'll try to repeat it for the room. Nope. Okay.
I think another part you guys need to
Hi,
know about-
sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Larry McIver. I work for the state of Maine. I represent a facility that we have in Monmouth. And so I was just kind of wanting to keep in the loop about what the services was going to look like. I'm glad to hear about the possibility of more stable coverage. So that does sound encouraging to me. I reached out in the last couple of months trying to touch base with both departments to try and work together, and I was hoping to form some kind of relationship where we can have a better understanding of what's going on at our facility and how we can help. But I'm glad to hear that, this is a possibility to make things easier on the officers, because I know that they're taxed, and I know that I've seen a lot of the same faces that have responded to our facility.
Thank you for that, Larry. Yes, sir.
What's the next step?
Good question.
You paid me enough.
We're working, we have a committee that we've been working with. And we kind of fell by the wayside when Dana was out for the 10, 11 months, just because there was so much work overload that we dropped that we just couldn't keep up with everything. And this is one of those that fell off the plate, but we're working on putting the committee back together. We met about a month ago, and the committee, we just briefed the committee. The committee would bring stuff to the table. We work through the problems. We try to solve the problems before they become big problems. We have our two union reps sitting at the table, giving us feedback, and not all of it's positive, but we need to hear that. And we need to be open to it, and we need to deal with because if we don't have the support of the rank and file, why do it? We're doing this for them. So it's good to have them on the board so that the people on this committee can hear exactly how it does impact the men and women who are down on the road working. Next step.
So at this point in time, do you feel you have that support?
I feel like we're gaining that support. I don't feel 100% confident that we have everybody's support, but I think everybody is open to the idea. One of the hard things is change. No one likes change. But I think if we're able to answer some of the questions and concerns that they have going forward, and then we go into a year trial period like we're going into, that hopefully they see the benefit to that, and accept and embrace the change, because sometimes change is a hard thing and no one likes it.
I understand. So you're already kind of at the point where you're thinking about having the year to see how this works?
So the next technical step is to ask the residents of Monmouth. So it'll be on the warrant to ask whether they want to pursue this consolidation. And it will request the empowerment of the select board to negotiate an interlocal agreement. We have to be able to sign that contract. We can't sign interlocal agreements without the town's support in Monmouth. Obviously, Winthrop can do different things because they have a council form of government, so they don't need to go through sort of the town meeting process in order to initiate that.
But is Winthrop agreeable to pursuing this as well?
As far as I know, yeah, the chief meets with them regularly, and me and the town manager. The town manager has the support to keep moving this forward on the Winthrop side. And on this side from the select board to just keep moving it forward and see how the townsfolk feel.
So if I understand when we first kind of explained how they are both working, from what I understand is that the salaries may not be quite even on both sides. Now, is that a fair statement, or is that
Not all of their compensation package is exactly the same because they have two different union contracts.
So at some point in time, I'm assuming that they're going to be brought into parity.
That would be
The goal.
That'd be the goal.
There's going to be a cost associated with doing that.
It takes collective bargaining, just like every time we do a bargaining, there's some cost we have to give and they have to give.
Your number,
Right.
I'm just saying that at
Correct.
some point in time, there's going to be a cost associated with that.
Yeah.
So and I'm assuming, and this may be a incorrect assumption, that cost is going to be falling probably more on Monmouth than it would be on.
It's actually a little more, I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, when we negotiated the contract for Monmouth and signed off on that, it's 3-year contract. At the end of the 3 years, the pay is going to be the same as Winthrop's.
Okay.
We did it in a 3-year step, so it wouldn't affect the taxpayer all in 1 year. We kind of stepped into it.
So are we in the first year, second year, or third year?
We're coming up into year 2.
Okay. And how long do you see this process taking?
We're hoping that it will be rolled out by 27, the 27,
The
28.
consolidation of them. So that would fall in line with what you've got for the salaries.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's two sides, right? There's the benefits. So the way that it kind of worked with these two communities is Monmouth paid a little less, but our benefits package was a little better when it came to retirement and health insurance. So Winthrop kind of did the inverse. They were trying to work through getting their insurances and retirement plan to be compensable to Monmouth. So each side kind of had their difficulties they had to work through. So both sides are trying to create that parity. But because they're two different unions, they both are going to have to negotiate to come to some agreement.
Well, same union, 2 different contracts.
Right, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, and this may be helpful towards the consolidation, but have you worked on a strategic plan that would say, this is our strategic plan, this is what we're looking at in a 5-year window? Our preliminary goals are to get the commission back together, look at the pros and cons of this consolidation. What we're trying to address is staff utilization, making sure that the officers are not overworked, that they have time to rest, that there's coverage that's provided. This is the type of coverage we're talking about. Also gives us the ability to send officers to training that they need to keep them safe. These are perhaps costs that we may reduce in the overall budget because they're duplicative of others that both towns are covering. I think that might be helpful to the communities to see your vision.
Yeah, and we're building that as we go. And like I said, everything that we're doing is brand new, and it's not opening a book or searching on. I went out on the web when I first started looking at this. The last study that was done by the International Association of the Chiefs of Police was in 2009, I believe. So the information they have is already 16 years outdated. And it mostly deals with sheriff's departments taking over the smaller towns. And not smaller towns working together for the common good. So yeah, we're learning and we're developing as we go. We have everything down, we're working. It's a process. I understand where you're at, where you're going, and that's what our end goal is to answer all those questions, because it is very important to us that we take care of the health of our officers that are actually out on the road doing this wonderful job.
So before we vote, we'll have that. We'll have a thing to go by for people to look and say, okay, this is what they're working for, this is what they're working for. Just gonna put it out to vote without anybody knowing what it's gonna cost or what it's gonna entail. You know what I'm saying? Like, people aren't just gonna go vote not knowing what it's gonna cost them.
Well, they're gonna have a budget to vote on.
That's with the consolidation, budget's gonna be with the consolidation. Or it's gonna be just the budget for Monmouth.
It's gonna be the Monmouth budget. I don't know if you were here, Roy, when he said that, explained the budget process for this coming year. We have to put enough money into that budget. So if it doesn't work, that we have the operating
Not money down.
costs to go forward.
I just think that's the biggest thing people are looking at, is what it's gonna cost them. Like this other guy said, taxes have gone up every year. They're gonna go up every year. It's expected. I know I worked for Winthrop, there were people who used to bitch there about the taxes. Mama's done good, it's only a couple hundred every year, it's not too bad, but people aren't gonna go and vote if they don't know what it's gonna cost them in the long run. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are against the police anyway. You know what I mean? In an overall side, and I know a lot of people.
I'm
I'm
shocked.
I know a lot of people that don't. You know what I'm saying? So I think, like she said, having something to look at when you go to vote, or at least before you go to vote, what it's gonna cost, what they're looking to do with it. All people here is, we wanna consolidate. You know what I mean? We wanna be one big police force. And I think that's is gonna bring a lot of negativity. Because people don't know what's going on, other than you guys want to consolidate.
I hear you.
And I think that the strategic plan had a section that really devoted what you want for the officers. Right, we want to do this because our officers in Monmouth, they're overworked, they're understaffed, we don't have adequate coverage at night. It provides them with rest that they need. It allows them to get specialized training to keep them safe, to keep us safe. It helps to make sure that officers doing their job, trying to do the right thing, talking to supervisors, are not penalized because there's, a slight difference in policy. We want to adjust the policies to match if we combine, so there's not those instances where, they weren't able to get a hold of their supervisor in Monmouth, they had to reach out due to the situation of the Winthrop lieutenant. And because the policies are slightly different, we don't want the lieutenant getting in trouble because he's reading the policy not as intended from the town of Monmouth, trying to give good advice, and we don't want the officer in this position. And maybe highlight those things that you're trying to gain out of this consolidation. And budget is a factor in that, and we know that, dollars and cents. But I think if you focus on why you really want this, not to sell it, but just to focus.
And I think that we've tried to do that with the committee that we put together to make it as open a process so everybody understands the reasoning behind this and, have we been 100% successful? Absolutely not. Could we do better? Absolutely. But going forward, I think, as we start putting this together, this plan together, and developing it further along, and knowing that we have the support of the community, I think it's gonna go a lot better and a lot quicker.
I agree. I'm just wondering if the strategic plan would help get you there.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It sounds wonderful, and maybe part of that process is a monthly newsletter or something like that. Just a little blurb about what's going on, the things that are happening, so that you keep the general public involved in that. They understand a little bit more about it. Raise questions, they can bring questions to whomever, whatever group it is. It helps in that process to people to understand, as opposed to just suddenly getting blindsided. Oh my God, here we go again. Consolidation means more money than I'm going to pay out. And it doesn't have to be that, it may be that, but we get better service and we look after the people that we need to look after.
I appreciate both of those suggestions. I think that like the strategic plan, for example, I do know where you're coming from. I mean, I'd like to see one too. The issue is that when we're separated by two different governing bodies, that's kind of the idea behind the police commission, is if there was if both communities support setting that up, then that would be basically the main charge to start with, would be for them to set all that up. They'd also have to come up with the plan of how we're going to work through merging the bargaining agreements and how those policies merge together and how the shift coverage is going to work, working with the management staff of both PDs. So that would really be a lot of the work that the commission would do in order to then bring that back to both communities. Because we're always going to there's always going to be kind of that tug of two communities trying to serve one agency. So the commission is kind of a way to join those communities together, so there's a common thread between the whole agency and both the communities that it's going to serve.
You guys want to put this to vote this year?
That's the plan. The select board has asked me to draft a question to put on the warrant that would be presented to the taxpayer, to the residents in June.
I know my wife touched on that, and we talked about it here, but I think unless you guys really get this out here, like me, at first I was concerned about walking in here. Now, I'm not so much concerned. Like I said, I 100% support the police officer. I want them to be safe. I want to have whatever they need, as long as we need the budget. But I think unless you guys get that laid out there to everybody actually understands, I don't foresee you guys getting this done.
There's a common homeowner that's not involved in the town, any of the town meetings, none of these, nothing.
Right.
We've all been increased. They're gonna see this on the vote. No, that's my money. I just got jacked up. They're going to need some type of information to comfortably make that vote for those that are not, because I've talked to people about this meeting today and they're like, huh, what's going on? They didn't even know, like, we're doing this. And it's sad, but those voters need to know ahead of time about what it may cost. Or what they're what's the projected plan,
So if they vote no, or this coming whenever, what happens then?
We stay the way we are.
So that's the end of it. So I think back to your point, you need to do a better job of getting out why this is important.
I think if you don't even have a strategic plan draft, putting this on the warrant in June is pretty impressive. Because if you can't explain what you want and why you need it,
Or how much it's even gonna cost.
you're not gonna get voters to buy it.
You live in Monmouth, you said, right? I mean, you definitely know this, but that reevaluation they just did, that doubled some people, if not more, some people's values of their homes. So you're asking people to just face that are already in panic mode to back something without knowing the answers to it. I just don't see it happen. I mean, maybe if you, I'm not gonna tell you that, I won't pay you, So we get that out there first.
No, it's okay. Go for-
Maybe, I don't wanna come across that. way. Sometimes
No, I understand.
too.
I will tell you.
So, but maybe, you know, if you, we have that town webpage, maybe you put something out there every once in a while, you open your office door, say, listen, I'm clearing this 4-hour block of windows, and, you know, this day, this week, you're welcome to come in and check with me and ask me any questions that I have, I'll share what I got, try to make it for you. I'm sure this man's very busy, being a police chief of both towns, but maybe that would help, I just, you know, I don't wanna see you guys, I think you have a good plan. As long as you guys keep it in budget, I really do, and I don't wanna see you fail at it because of lack of information for the public.
I don't want to see the measure fail because everybody's really excited because it sounds like a great idea. Because you're gonna trip over yourselves. And it may be worth, you know, seeing if you can get the commission, if that's the first step. Having the commission draft this strategic plan, having it sent back out to the community. And then putting it on the warrant and then discussing it with the town council. And I think you would have much greater impact. Not rushing into something.
And was Winthrop gonna put that to vote also? Are their residents gonna be asked
No,
to accept, no? Oh, wow.
They have a council form of government, so they don't have
that.
that.
I figured they'd still put it on.
So no concern from their perspective?
Not from their council.
So I guess if this is to proceed and move forward, it's up to Monmouth to be able to sell, maybe sell is a strong word, but to outline why there's benefits associated with this, and why we should be looking that forward to, whether it's what you're suggesting, whatever way, but the more you get information out there, the better people will be with their understanding. Yeah, do I want to see my taxes go up? No, but as far as this is now, we're gonna have, you know, additional coverage at night, there's gonna be, you know, second lieutenant or however that works. There are gonna be multiple ways to be able to get backup, I have backup from the, it just says, okay, you know, maybe it's gonna increase my taxes by $5, $500. I have no idea what that would be, let's hope not 500. But it's just, I think the more information you can get out to the general public, the more they'll be able to understand it. Now, I'm not sure they're gonna read it. When the first time I read this, I said, I want to be in that meeting. And I'm sorry to see that there aren't more people here. I think the more you get people involved in this process, the likely are you're gonna have a better outcome the way you want, as opposed to reacting the way that happened with regards to what happened when there was a reevaluation. That was not a pretty sight. Just personal opinion.
I mean, we just had that, you guys had to have another vote last year, was it? Because the town just rebelled and voted everything down, right?
Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah. You wanna avoid that obviously again. And that was before the reevaluation.
That's what I'm afraid of gonna happen, so.
Because you guys have had the conversations, you've had the meetings. And I believe this is our first meeting. And I could be incorrect, but you've had those meetings to get used to this idea of consolidation. You already understand why it is a good, it's a good proposition. But the townsfolk haven't, right? They haven't been involved in these pre-conversations. So they're coming in late, right? We're coming in late to the conversation. And like I said earlier, I think putting this on the June board is aggressive. And the chances of it not passing because residents are, well, ill-informed, uninformed, they will read it as, we want to consolidate with Winthrop, this will probably raise our taxes, I'm gonna vote no, without knowing why we want to consolidate, why this is important, why we think this is a good idea.
So what happens, let's say you guys put this in front of the town? And well, I mean, I agree, there should be a lot more people at these meetings than what they are. Cause you go through town, you hear people complaining all the time about how our taxes are here. Why are we doing this? Why are they doing that? So you guys slap this in front of the town and then all of a sudden they don't want it. Then they vote down your budget for the police department completely. Now, these poor people who have done their job the whole time, are they out of jobs? And then the town residents are we out in the police department? Cause that's what I'm getting.
The town votes it down, correct me if I'm wrong. We can operate on what the previous year's budget up to, I think it's 90%. To give us an opportunity to put a new budget together, present it to the town, and then go forward. Yes,
So is there, as a also Monmouth resident, is there gonna be 2 questions on, 1 to consolidate, 2 for the police budget?
yes.
Okay.
That's good.
And the police budget is still part of the normal
Right.
warrant. This will just be another, after all of the budget articles, there's a, just like if there was an ordinance being proposed, it'll be like after the budget questions, there'll be a question about whether they want to move forward with consolidation.
Are you able to click on that, like explain just a quick brief, like why, or are you limited to so many wording on the warrant?
You can generally put an explanation that might, because some warrant articles are driven by statutes, and sometimes they don't make sense. So like sometimes when we put like TIF questions on there, everybody reads that and we always hear the feedback, like why does it have to be so complicated? Because that's what the state wants it to say.
Mhm.
So sometimes on those, we'll put like a brief explanation, but you can't add pages because the warrant is a legal
No, but
document.
like
So
to
you can only
give a-
add like a couple sentences underneath the question.
So if you're gonna put a budget in there for the police department, will it be assuming that it is going forward or that it isn't? So then there needs to be a line if there's gonna be an additional cost or there's gonna be a savings associated with that? No?
With a town meeting form, we can't put all different types of contingencies on there because the questions, people can vote however they want. So even if we ask a question like, if question 31 doesn't pass, then vote on 32. People can still put yes on both and they conflict with each other. So we can't have any questions that conflict with one another. So I can't put like the operating budget is X if we don't consolidate and then have a different question that says it's going to be X if we do, because we don't know the answer to either of those questions until the voting's all done.
Right, but then people can vote on which one they want to. I'm not sure how you can accomplish what you're suggesting by not having something associated with, if we're gonna consolidate, what's the cost associated with that? If we're not gonna consolidate, what's the cost associated with that? And I don't know what those numbers are, and I'm sure
Right.
you don't, but
In the first year, the numbers are the same.
I'm just not sure how you can have. If I'm understanding, it's both questions, you can either. Because if you vote to consolidate, you vote to pass the budget for the police department. I understand that the police department budget, won't change for the year. I guess I'm just unclear how that would work.
I am too. Because
Because people are gonna think the budget that you're voting on is part of the consolidation. I think that's how people are gonna read it.
exactly,
They're gonna tie the 2 together
Do you guys want the
within the
consolidation?
warrant.
Yes. This is the amount? Yes. That's how people are gonna read it, whether you think. that anyone knows.
Probably.
that would really be confusing.
It will, I'm sure it will, because the police comes up under the town and everything else, so now this consolidation question, I'm sure it's gonna come at the end of the warrant, right?
It'll be towards the end, after the budget articles.
So, here's number 4.
Yeah, you really, if this is something you really want, and I think it makes, from my perspective, again, an awful lot of sense. You really need to make sure you understand what it is that people are gonna be looking to answer when they start voting.
The issue with the budget question is we can't answer that until there's an interlocal agreement, because both communities have to come to a contractual agreement about how that cost sharing is gonna happen.
Okay, and
So until we're empowered to negotiate that interlocal agreement, which is what the question technically is, it's asking the voters if they're willing to empower the select board through the managers usually to negotiate that interlocal agreement, which is how the cost sharing formula will be developed.
So when will that terminology?
Interlocal agreement is what it's
Interlocal.
referred to as in
So
municipalities.
when are we voting on that?
The question is to empower the municipal offices of each community to negotiate that.
And when is that? The next elections?
June.
In June, so we're gonna be voting on that, and then we're gonna vote on consolidation, and also whether it's gonna cost.
No, the question would give, is empowering the select board in Monmouth and the council. They don't need the town to vote on it in Winthrop.
I
The
understand.
council in Winthrop will do it. But here, the question is asking the voters to empower the select board to negotiate that agreement with Winthrop so that the cost sharing formula can be developed.
So we'll have that vote in June.
So they,
The question
That question. that you
in
just-
June of this year, right, would be
Right.
to empower the select board to
Okay,
negotiate that interlocal agreement.
So-
Because they can't do it without the town agreeing.
so that's the first step,
Yes.
correct? So it's gonna take at least another year before you get to that next process?
What the chief was talking about was that vote will empower the select board to do that. It will also set up the police commission, which will work through the policies, all that type of work that still has to be done. And then the interlocal agreement throughout that process will be generated and then ratified by the select board and by the council in Winthrop. And then we will have a cost sharing formula and the basic framework that the joint agency will work under.
so if I have a follow-up question to that, it is, the question on the June warrant is to empower the town to do that. It doesn't sound like once that power is, say, approved by the voters, that it comes back once we have that additional information that the commission would have. It's just once we vote yes to empower you, that's it.
It's going forward.
It's-
regardless.
There's no additional vote that says, yeah, you have given us the residents of Monmouth have given us the power to go ahead, work with the commission. This is what we're looking at. This is what we can accomplish. All these things. Here's their strategic plan. Now, as residents, we would like you to vote whether or not you want to move forward with the consolidation.
Like in November, so.
Is that the process? If that makes sense, the process that she just described, what you were talking about, I was having a hard time trying to understand how we're gonna accomplish all of this and vote for it in June.
I can tell you that myself, I like your plan, I actually probably would support it. But if you're telling me that I'm gonna give you guys power to make decisions on your own permanently, I ain't voting for it, 100%.
Well, nothing is permanent. I mean, the town can always change its mind. I mean, it could decide next year that it wants to abolish the police department and then it wouldn't, it
Right. But
wouldn't have any material effect. So the idea would be is that that contractual agreement would lay out, just like the contractual agreement we have with the police chief, that lays out the exit path for Winthrop to no longer share the chief services. So that type of language would have to be developed as part of that process. You know how that's all going to work. We don't know because we can't say how it's going to work just on the Monmouth side, right? Because we're two different communities. We each are governed by different rules. So we have to have some ability to be able to negotiate that in good faith with Winthrop in order to get anything to move forward.
And as part of this negotiation, there's gonna be costs associated with some of this.
Sure.
And so therefore, I guess that's my point, is there's cost associated with that. Can you assume that doesn't have to be voted upon by the Monmouth citizens?
It will be in the election.
In which election? This coming,
Well, every year we the town brings a budget before the voters to get it ratified. So the police commission will be making a suggestion. Those will be public meetings too. It'll be just like a select board or a council meeting. They'll have their own meetings that will be public meetings and people will be able to attend those.
so when are you hoping that you'll be able to accomplish having a consolidated, approved by the citizens of Monmouth and also by the town council in Winthrop, having that implemented?
July 1, 2027.
Is there any way you could get the okay in June from the residents? Get all your information, lay it out, explain it, whatever you wanna do. And then in November, give the numbers and what's gonna go on, and they vote on that. Is there any way to do it that way?
You could come back for a second question about whether you want to proceed, but we can't modify a budget in the middle of the year because you can only commit taxes once. But I do know what you're saying. If there was a plan that would be put forward for the following June, in theory, if they had all that work done by November, I mean, you're only giving them a couple of months to try to work out all the details I'd be very surprised if the collective bargaining process would be that smooth, but
I think if you had it that way, you had something to show them the next time you had a vote. You'd be more apt to pass than not, I think. But I think if you're just gonna ask me to give you guys permission to go form a commission and let's go, I don't think people are gonna. I'm not gonna just let you guys just say, okay, yeah, now we got, okay, let's go. There's too many variables that are gray areas, you don't know.
So what's the question on the board gonna be again? To empower,
so it's kind of a three-part question. It asks the residents if they want to consolidate the Monmouth and Winthrop Police Departments. And then it talks about setting up a police commission with the things I mentioned before, what the police commission's authorities be, which is hire a chief during a vacancy and to develop a consolidated budget to be presented to both towns. And then it empowers the select board to negotiate an interlocal agreement with the town of Winthrop. So those are the three sort of parts to the question.
because I was thinking just the negotiation part. It didn't give you the authority to actually enter into like the agreement, but because it's working down through it. The person.
I just wanted to make a point for a question or a statement that somebody made about, they were very disappointed at the amount of people that were here at this meeting. It was very difficult to find out where this meeting was.
Yes.
It's very difficult. I've looked on the calendar myself for the past 2 weeks to find out where this meeting was gonna be after the last one was canceled. There was nothing on the calendar. This morning, I just happened to glance at the top of that page for the town of Monmouth and happened to see that it said at the very top, not with the calendar stuff, at the very top, that it was here. Dana said, oh, I saw something on Facebook. I looked, I said, no, I don't see anything. He looked, 6 people down. He finally saw something. So it was very difficult to find stuff here. And Richard, you know, I'm not the most tech person here, but if I can click on the calendar and find it, I know what's going on.
I went to the town office this morning to specifically ask where it was. She looked on the television screen, couldn't find it on there. So I said, well, the last thing I knew, it was up at that building as I described at 6 o'clock. It was, I don't know, about 5 o'clock. My partner said, hey, you know, it's in the building here and it's at 5:30. You know, exactly what you said.
So, you know, it was very difficult to find it. You know, I'm just saying. And
I
then,
found out about it yesterday at noontime.
you know,
But it was here.
Shit, don't worry about it.
and then I do have one other, since I have another meeting that I have potentially, there is one other point that I would like to make. I have heard from one of your committee members, as well as some other people, that you are looking to get rid of the Monmouth Police Department building. I think it's a big mistake, personally. If the town gets rid of it, the town will never get it back again. It will be gone and it will go to somebody else. I don't believe that you have enough space in Winthrop to store all the stuff that we have in Monmouth. So I think it will be an absolutely big mistake to get it. And the other piece of information I heard was that I am also on the short list to be let go. So with that, I am off to my other meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
I think you have questions in the Zoom chat.
Or is there somebody on there again?
I don't know if they're waiting or chatting it.
Oh, we generally don't,
Oh, okay.
but there is somebody with their hand up.
How do you know that?
Is there a person with their hand up again?
Told me to tell you to read the name.
Oh.
Did you get what you wanted from this meeting?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So when are your next meetings? What do you propose?
Public meeting like this?
I don't know, yes, there's gonna be a public meeting or,
Well, we have, to schedule our committee meeting, consolidation committee meeting.
They're gonna be open to the public?
Yes. We usually hold them right at 1:30 meeting.
So you wouldn't consider holding some of those over here at Monmouth?
I mean, we could, it's just a matter of.
It seems to me that for the people in Monmouth, this is probably a larger issue than it would be from the perspective of the citizens of Winthrop. Just my perspective. And so therefore, I think the better job you do educating the citizens of Monmouth, the more likely you are to get what it is that you're hoping to get to accomplish. That's my personal opinion. And so maybe that's doable, maybe it's not.
There's questions on here, I don't know how to read them.
We don't, the chat's not really supposed to be on because you're not supposed to engage, because I'm not supposed to engage with people that text me on my phone when I'm in meetings either.
Gotcha.
But,
Sorry.
I can try to read them though. I mean, it's no problem,
Yeah,
because
I
it's
saw-
on there, so their expectation is that. If I can figure this out, this one looks different than the one I use on normally. Sorry, the people have to look at me in the face. Is the bottom or the top? Oh, I wish this thing wouldn't move so fast.
There.
Does that make it bigger? Oh, yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah, that's a little easier to read. How do union members feel about coming together? I think we addressed that one, didn't we?
We did.
Talking about learning the roads between Winthrop and Monmouth, or how would the shifts work? I think we touched on that as well, didn't we? About, we'd have to set that up later. It's talking about Winthrop being the fiduciary. That is true. One of the towns would have to be financially responsible for a consolidated agency, and the plan has been for Winthrop to do that. Which basically means that as you put, let me just give an example. If you were to put money aside for an upcoming cruiser, Winthrop would be the one that would set up the accounts for the reserves for like a cruiser in the future or something. So they would be holding that money in order to purchase a cruiser at some date in the future. So that's what that would entail. And I think those are all the questions or comments.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming and giving us some insight and some direction, and that's what I was hoping for to gather out of this to move forward. So we will try to be more open and forthcoming with the information. The Monmouth Messenger. We'll have an update in March. I think March
Comes out in April.
April, yeah, it comes out beginning of April, so there'll be more information available in the Monmouth Messenger. And that's one of the ways we're gonna work moving forward, getting the information out there. I don't know what the receivership is of that, how many people read that, but that's one of the ways we're gonna move forward with this. And again, I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate your input into this.
Yes, thank you all very much for coming.
Any other questions before we?
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the police officers here.
More so the police officers.
All right.